So when we're talking the duration of copyright protections, so copyrights don't last forever. Um, so they are a little different um, depending on the circumstances. So, for example, the majority of most literary works are going to be the life of the author plus 70 years. Um, so that means it actually means not just literature, music, artistic works. And once that period is up, then it enters the public domain. So, for example, a book written by an author who died in, let's say, 2020 will have copyright protection until 2090. After that, the book will then become public domain. For works created as works made for hire, such as those created by employees within the scope of their employment or commissioned works that meet certain criteria, the duration of copyright is different. In the United States, for instance, the copyright typically lasts 95 years from the date of publication or 120 years from the date of creation, whichever is shorter. So, for example, like a corporate owned movie released in 1930 would have a copyright protection until 2025, at which point it would then enter the public domain. Now, there have been some changes. So, any works previous to 1978 follow different rules because the law changed then. Originally, these works were protected for 28 years with the possibility of renewing for another 67 years, so totaling 95 years of protection. So, if a book was published in 1928, it would enter the public domain in 2023 if you followed all the renewals and etc. So what is public domain whenever these copyrights expire? So basically it after the expiration of the copyright, and that's usually the most common reason things enter the public domain, these protection rights no longer apply to the work. There are some other reasons that it may end up in the public domain if it's failures to meet formalities. So if they fail to complete the registration notice, it may enter into public domain. You may do voluntarily relinquish the work and put it into public domain, or maybe the work is deemed ineligible for copyright protections. So those might be some reasons why, other than the expiration of the copyright, that it may end up in public domain. I did look up a couple of examples. So F. Scott Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby was created in 2025. The Great Gatsby entered public domain on January 1st, 2021. That's 95 years after its publication. So following its entry into public domain, there's been a surge of new editions, adaptations, creative projects based on the novel, including, new book covers, graphic novels, even musical adaptations. And so now you can actually you could write a book within that world of the Great Gatsby, and, you could write a second work and, Great Gatsby 2 or whatever. But you could use that information. I'm not sure how you would do that, but, I'm just saying, you could create a derivative work from that. The one that I find that happened most recently that kind of makes me chuckle a little bit is Winnie the Pooh. So the original Winnie the Pooh book entered the public domain on January 1st, 2022. So almost immediately there were several projects that emerged, one including a horror film And I think it was called Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey or something. So it reimagines the character into this like twisted horror storyline that I'm sure is. I haven't watched it, so I couldn't tell you whether or not it's any good or not. I'm going to guess no, but I'm not sure. But you could write a book featuring Winnie the Pooh. So now I'm not sure you can use the image, like the Disney image of Winnie the Pooh. I don't think that copyright has expired. Disney's copyright on Steamboat Willie did expire. So you could use images of Steamboat Willie and not violate Disney's copyright because it has entered public domain. But I don't think the image of Winnie the Pooh, just the original like children's story. And so you could use all the characters from the 100 Acre Woods. You could use the 100 Acre Woods and create this horror story because that's all in public domain now. Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So it was published in 1926 and entered public domain in January 1st, 2023. So there are new adaptations of the novel now that are possible without licensing fees. So you don't have to have permission from a copyright owner. So there are people creating stage plays, films, television series, new editions of books, sometimes adding commentary, illustrations, graphic novels, you name it, open for business. You can produce anything under that content as it's now under public domain. So that's kind of the 411 on the durations and what happens to after expiration.